Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. We had a lot of computer glitchiness today. We're going to run a little over, I think is what's going to happen. So
And
we
Ginny,
are
you
here.
can take a full hour to do your session and we'll let you do so we can go till 10 o'clock or not 10
Great.
o'clock, 11 o'clock, sorry, Eastern time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So we came here today to talk about the Hammersmith Infant Neurological Exam and the General Movement Assessment to talk about equipment needs. I put this up for you today because I want you to look at my YouTube channel. There will be for you the training videos for the GMA and the HINE, as well as the full 15-minute video of Carol and Benjamin Schrader that I'm showing you just a small minute of. But if you want to go watch the rest of it, it is on the YouTube channel. I am a paid educational consultant for Prime Engineering, and I just want to acknowledge that Mary and Bruce have funded me to attend conferences all over the world so that I get to meet cool people and learn cool things and put it all together and try to give it to you in a usable way. Another disclosure is that I have COVID, so my brain isn't working very well. So I have a backup plan, and my backup plan is Wendy. So she's going to be monitoring the chat and chiming in when I say ridiculous things. She also caught some of my spelling errors, and she's just got my back today. Over the pandemic, we were able to publish an article on abduction in standers and how that affects weight bearing. We use different inclinations and orientations. So I invite you to look at that new article. And then before that, we had published a case study of a child in a dynamic mobility device. So we've been busy and we have new stuff coming up as well. So here are our objectives today. We're going to know what the GMA and HINE are used for. We're going to look at some ideas of what we're going to do for specific GMFCS levels 4 and 5, the kids who are most likely to be non-ambulant, and what those specific interventions are. And we're going to do that within the F-words framework. So the big change is that we are trying to identify children who have CP or will have lifelong sensory motor impairments between 3 and 6 months of adjusted age. Why that is so important is because we know that the height of neuromotor plasticity, according to Andrea Scusetta's research, is 2 years. So if we want things to happen, we've got to get them in there before that. Kathleen Friel, his research has also showed us that the intraspinal neurons are done developing between 6 and 12 months. So that's why this whole idea of on-time mobility is just so important, because we're running out of time to change the system. So lots of research has been done internationally, looking at how we're going to identify these children, especially in low and middle income settings. And we can do it. Of course, the MRI is one of the components, but if we can't get an MRI, the guidelines, the international guidelines from Novak and others say that we can do this just based on the GMA and the HINE. I'm recommending that therapists use these as screening tools. We don't diagnose, but we need to know which are the children that need to go on to see a specialty physician. So when you do the GMA training course, there are 2 levels. And when you get to the advanced level, you learn how to do the motor optimality score. And for kids between 2 and 5 months adjusted age, when that score is below 7, they're most likely to be non-ambulant. For the HINE score, between 9 and 24 months corrected age, if their score is below 40, they're most likely to be non-ambulant. So if you are working in a NICU follow-up clinic, if you are seeing lots of babies that are 5 months adjusted age and below, you probably want to go ahead and learn the Prechtel general movement assessment. There are other versions out there, but you want Prechtel. And the website for that is the General Movements Trust. It's about $1,500. It's about 3.5 days. And then the advanced course is where you learn the motor optimality scoring. In research, there is an app that people are using to assess the general movements, and that will be more widely available. And that's the tool that they're going to use in Australia for universal screening for cerebral palsy. So that's really exciting. If you just want to learn how to be a screener, I think you can take the free course online out of Newcastle University, and I've got the website address for you there. So feel free to take a screenshot or use your phone, or you can email me if you want the handouts as well. So you can go and take that course. They just made it free recently. So this is my quick and dirty course to teach you general movements as a screening tool. So look at these beautiful, normal baby movements. They're smooth. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's little rotation movements at the wrist and ankle, at the hips and the pelvis and the shoulder girdle. When you take the course, you'll learn something called fidgety, fidgety, fidgety. So this baby is just moving, rocking and rolling. I think the best way to decide if your baby has good general movements is to pretend you are the baby. So transport your body inside that baby's body and start moving the same way that baby is moving. Does that feel good to you? Does that feel smooth? Does that feel even? Would you be happy moving like this baby is moving? And I think you would. It's very random. It's comfortable. They don't get stuck anywhere. They move around. Everything sort of goes. And I think you'd be happy. Versus this baby that doesn't have any rotational movements, that doesn't have smooth movements. It's kind of predictable. One leg keeps doing the same thing. The other leg is sort of doing the same thing. One arm is sort of just making circles. The other arm is sort of just stuck. So if you transposed your body into this baby's body and you started moving like this baby, I think you would be uncomfortable and happy. And that's a nice way just to understand that this baby doesn't have general movements that are normal. If you want to take the HINE course, in general, they're free, but you do have to cover the expenses for the presenter. There's a yearly online course that consists of an online training. If you've been trained in person, then you can be trained in the online methodology. This has been shown to be valid and reliable using telehealth. So I can do this over telehealth, especially for me as a screening. And the training video is free and online, and I've got it up on my YouTube channel. The first thing you'll have to do is download the form. So you'll have to go register at that hammersmithneuroexam.com, and then you can get what's called the pro forma, which is the way you're going to score this exam. So once you have the score, then you're going to want to look at these charts to know what you've got. So you can see on the top chart, oh, I think I have a better picture of this. There we go. This is predicting which baby is going to have lifelong sensory motor impairment. It's an infographic. It's an interpretation of a study. So it's not perfect, but you can see that there's nice wide gaps between I'm going to be concerned and I'm not going to be concerned. You can see the 3, 6, the 9, and the 12-month score. And that 12-month you're going to use all the way up to 24 months. I have had kids who have mild hemiplegia whose scores end up in the green zone, but I know from their MRI that they definitely have cerebral palsy. So again, it's not perfect. It's an infographic, but it's a way to give you a nice idea. Wendy, anything in the chat?
Just wanting the link again to the Practal training. So far.
All right. Let's see. So I'll go back so you can take a screenshot of that. Hopefully you got your camera out and you took a screenshot. So the next graphic I'm going to show you is how you decide what the GMFCS level is going to be. So after 9 months, so between 9 and 24 months, based on their HINE score, you can predict with about 68% accuracy who's going to be at GMFCS level 1 or 2. Those are going to be the kids whose score falls in the green box. The kids who are going to be GMFCS level 3, those are the kids in the yellow box. And the kids that are going to fall into GMFCS level 4 and 5, which is the red box, or what we call the non-ambulant group. Anything I missed, Wendy? All right, then. So this is the training video that is up on my YouTube channel. It's also available online with the original publication. This is Andreas Guzetta. And I wish I could remember offhand. I think there's about 30 items. Wendy, how many items are there?
Yes, it's 72 points total. So
Divided by 3 is some number. That's how many items there are, because your max is a 3. So there have been some nice new articles about these sentinel items. So there's 3 items that really can be used as a short and dirty screening tool to know if you need to use the whole thing. So I've given you 2 of the sentinel articles, sentinel items here. And then I'll tell you what the third one is. So sort of the item that's going to predict what the rest of the test is going to tell you is this, this item here, which is arm extension. So you can see Andreas Guzetta is holding down the child's pelvis and then pulling across and seeing if that other arm is coming down. And then we score that. And if you see any asymmetries, it used to be that 6 asymmetries meant that you probably needed to do CIMT or habit or some upper limb intervention. The threshold has now been decreased to 4. So if you see 4 asymmetries, you really want to explore and make sure that that child doesn't have hemiplegia or doesn't have significant asymmetries that need to be addressed.
Hey,
Anything
Jenny,
else you want to say about this? Yep.
will you back up to the HINE slide about the training video on it, please?
This one?
Yes.
And if you go on my YouTube channel, you can find it. Anything else you want to say about this video, Wendy?
No, it is one of the easiest and quickest down and dirty tests as an early intervention therapist to be able to do when you're doing an initial eval, to say, ooh, do I really need to pull out and do a whole HINE? Or are we looking pretty decent here because we have this ability to protect?
The next sentinel item is parachuting, and we do this after 6 months of age. And this test is so strong. The statistics are so amazing that even if you're before 6 months and you lose these 3 points, you're still going to get the same answer. It's why I love it to be used as a screening tool and why I think we should be using this everywhere. Australia has chosen the GMAs for universal screening because they want to catch the kids at 3 to 6 months. I think the HINE would be a better way to do this because it's free, because it's open access, because we have this training video. The training manual is going to be coming out very soon. A group that I do research with in Spain, Alvaro Hidalgo Robles, has written the instruction manual for the HINE. It's already done in Spanish. They've completed the validity and the reliability and shown that it goes up about 20% when you have the manual. And we're translating that into English. So in the next 6 months, you should have the manual. So the fact that we can make that open access and give that to everybody means that we can all use it for free. So I think that if you're looking in your state or your clinic to be screening everyone for cerebral palsy, I think this is the tool to use. The other sentinel item is lateral tilting. Any other questions about HINE or GMA before I move on? Anything in the chat, Wendy? All right, then. So this is, there's Alvaro, the guy that's doing the HINE manual. This is one of the research teams I work with, Ana Carolina Campos and Egimar Longo from Brazil, and then Claire Schrader. And you probably know the rest of her family, Wade Schrader and Carol Schrader from ISS. And what we've been looking at is the interventions that are appropriate for kids at GMFCS level 4 and 5. So once we've done the HINE and the GMA, and we are suspecting that the child's going to be non-ambulant, what are the things we need to jump in with? This is a infographic that we made for another article. It's similar to what you have in the American Academy of Cerebral Palsy hypotonia care pathway, where we recommend the equipment interventions. So this is not the final product, but I just wanted to show you what we're going to be looking at. And we've done this based on GMFCS levels, and this is the one for the 4s and the 5s. So we want to start right away. As soon as the child is already in the NICU, you want to start with postural management. You want to fight against the preferred positions. And really what we want to do is eradicate windswept deformity. We know from Elizabeth Robbie-Basquet and all the wonderful evidence coming from CPUP that the windswept deformity gives you the highest risk of having a dislocated or subluxed hip. It also contributes to scoliosis. It contributes to contractures. So that's really what we want to fight. We want to start with inclined 45-degree, as close to upright possible seating at 3 months. We want to start standing at 9 months, stepping at 9 months, power mobility at 9 months, getting a bathing and toileting system as soon as we need it, and a lift system as well. Anything you want to add to that, Wendy?
No, I think you're right on target. I think it's a little overwhelming for some families to start standing, stepping, and power all at the same time. So I'm curious to see how your final numbers come out, or if there becomes an order to start them in, because that's 3 major movement pieces all at the same time. Typical babies are starting to do all that moving at the same time too, but we're trying to do it here in 3 different ways and make it fit into natural routines. So that would be an interesting thing to think about.
And I think you wanted me to add recreational activities in here as well.
Yes.
So we're going to do that because Wendy said so. So there's the words. Go with what we just talked to. And here are the things I'm going to show you. So we know from Iona Novak from the game research that we need to start grasping, reaching, and kicking. Those are the things we're doing between 0 and 3 months. So we are adding affordances. We are enriching the environment. I use typical baby equipment. My favorite toy is the toy rings. They cost about $5 for 100 of them. They have texture, they have shape, they fit in your hand, and we just put those everywhere. So there's always something to do. While the child is awake and wanting to play, there's always something to touch, to feel, to kick. And again, coaching parents to give the feet something to do. We need to explore with our feet and get the kicking going. Here are some ideas for you for hand use. So let's see. Here we go. So on the bottom left, we've done is just another kicking, the hanging of the ball. So the child's kicking purposely the ball. Then in your upper left, you've got my friend Elliot on the second slide from the left. He's doing his CIMT. So his right hand is much preferred to his left. So we put a sock on that right hand for about 20 minutes. And his nanny is playing a game with him where he's very motivated and wants to use that left hand. Then we move on to habit, and he's using a bimanual activity. So he's very motivated to use a spoon to get his walnuts out of his little sippy cup and then put them in the metal pot, which makes a nice noise, and stir. That's called habit. Another intervention is called habitile, which is habit for the lower extremity. Then you can take some Velcro and sew it on the mitt or the sock or the glove, and then put Velcro on your toys. That's called grabby gloves or grabby mittens, so that the child can again start to grasp and reach and be motivated. I love these new rattles, for a better word, that are available now. So this child has hemiplegia. He's not using his left hand at all. And so he's also missing some fingers. So we're able to, of course, we're going to give him time to get that hand in his mouth, but he wasn't that motivated. But now that his hand is on that device, he's using it much more. So of course, we're going to have time without that device, but that's how we got that arm moving, because he was interested in that toy. Wendy, what's your experience been with the yellow rattle?
Families tend to like it, and there are a nice variety of options out now that aren't as big as the penguin that the one little guy has, that are a little bit bigger and smaller than the other yellow one. So Amazon, favorite place to go and look for all of those, but they are coming in really nice for kids, and they also then help with their grasp.
Awesome. So here we have just some postural management ideas, especially for hip health. We're looking to get kids out of the windswept deformity, get them in better alignment. And postural management is an affordance. It's an affordance towards participating in a sleep routine in as comfortable a position as we can get them. And Wendy and I's favorite thing is positioning PJs. Wendy's taken pajamas and sewn some adaptations into them that sort of end up looking like this white doll, the second from your left, where there's keeping the legs apart in the right position, but it's part of the garment. So there's nothing that can come off or get free in the bed or be dangerous. Anything you want to say about that, Wendy? All right, then. Here are some more videos, whoops, of supported sitting. Sorry, they are not videos. They are all photos of fun ways of using the special tomato, of using normal baby equipment, and all is fair in love, war, and positioning. So we use towels, we use pillows. I take those silicone pot holders so the children can't slip. We'll see Lily again later, but on that bottom photo, you can see they've taken a coat hanger to make the toys able to hang above her so she can start to reach and grab. And Mardi Gras beads are a favorite. And Wendy's discovered some really nice proximity switch activated toys on the typical market that are affordable. Maybe you can put those in the chat, Wendy.
I will. Baby Einstein makes them, and HAPE, H-A-P-E is the company. And also for you families who have been in the hospital a lot and have the Z-Flow pillows that they bring home, they're awesome to use for little positioning things here.
Great idea. So again, supported standing is part of postural management, and it needs to be an affordance to participation in an activity. So when you're in your stander, you should be playing with your sibling. You can use typical baby equipment. Just make sure you get the shoulders over the pelvis as best you can. Here, there's a blanket stuffed behind his back, but it's probably not low enough. I probably needed to get his pelvis more forward. This was during telehealth time, so we're doing the best we can helping parents do it. But I believe you can start with typical baby equipment, and that's in the GAME research from Iona Novik and Kathy Morgan as well. Then we go ahead and start with supported stepping devices. We use them for fun. We use them for friends. We use them for all the F words, and they can be really helpful. When looking at some of the robotic devices like the Trexo, you just want to make sure that they are active. You don't want a passive device. You don't really want something, as an example, the Eno Walk that's totally passive. You want to look at the devices. You want to ask all the questions to make sure that the child has to initiate the movement, that there's active learning from the child as well. Our conference has been awesome about talking about power mobility. I think we've gotten some nice ideas about what the devices out there are that are small enough if we can transport them in our cars to bring them from childcare to childcare and house to house, and the power mobility items that the parents might accept as well. We're also thinking about bikes and trikes and race walkers and all the fun equipment that kids can use to be active. The one in the middle is the prone walk, because it's really hard to get the Swedish race walker in the States. I don't actually know. If you know, put it in the chat of who's covering that. Anything else in the chat, Wendy?
No, you're good.
Anything you want to say about Emmett?
No, Emmett is your perfect kid for on-time mobility. He has CMV and presents as a pretty dystonic spastic quadriplegic, and has from the very beginning had positioning and options and a whole continuum of activity levels and positioning equipment to support his function. And he's a very happy, healthy, now 7-year-old who has pizza nights in the community on Friday nights and is in school with his friends in Power and rides his bike every day in the neighborhood. So all of the opportunities that the people at this conference have helped develop as far as equipment goes and the research behind it, Emmett is a perfect case of success.
And you can read all about it in Directions magazine. If you look for Every Day with Emmett, you can see the article that Wendy and I published on Emmett. So now I just want to give you a framework for when we're using the HINE and the GMA to predict the GMFCS level of the child. And now we're trying to think of the ingredients. What do we want to do for this child? What do we have to provide for this child based on what their long-term outcome might be? And I think the framework that most of us has started using are the F words, because I'm seeing the slides in a lot of your presentations. We saw this slide a lot, but I wanted to let you know that there is a new slide, and function has now become functioning. So again, this is a living document. CanChild updates it based on what they're getting from the people that are using it. And another big change for me that I want to talk about today is where we put the ingredients. And that's what our big research project is that we're just wrapping up now. So again, when you use the chart, make sure you get the updated one because you'll notice that it will say functioning. This is a video that's from Nossa Casa in Brazil. It's in English, but if you're looking to learn more about the F words, Google it or look on YouTube and watch the video that has this infographic on it. So I just wanted to give you a taste of how we are sorting the ingredients. So we went into the literature, we did a scoping review, we came up with all the interventions that people are using for kids at GMFCS level 4 and 5, and then we sort the ingredients. So we're actually writing a second article now. Eggy Marlongo and Anna Carol Campos are leading that effort in terms of how to sort the ingredients. So under functioning, we have child-initiated movement. We have adapting the activity for the level of the child, task-specific training, motor exploration, like what you do when you use your little power mobility training, and engagement and motivations. Those are things that fall under functioning. Things that fall under family are things like family-centered practice, coaching strategies, education of families. In this research project, educational programs came out as the #1 most effective thing we can do for families. So much so that the UN has given a grant, and they're now in the process of making training videos. So they're making this 10-hour, there's 10 one-hour modules that are going to be made in many different languages and targeted for many different cultures to talk about what is cerebral palsy, what does this mean for you, what is spasticity, what about standards, what about postural management. So I think this will be a really strong tool for us to give families so that they go through a formal education program so that when they come to us, they're already empowered. They can already tell us what's important to them. When we did the ingredients, another big shift for us was to realize that the F word family was where environmental factors go. So if you look at the ICF part of environmental factors, the word used for F words is family. So when you think of things about like the ramp, the accessible van, the accessible, Wendy didn't do spell check on this slide, sorry.
I'm gonna say, I just now see it.
Yeah, because I just made it this morning. It's not your fault, it's mine. I blame COVID. I blame everything on COVID. Accessible changing table at the mall, right? If there's not an accessible changing table at the mall, then you can't go to the mall. And all the smart wheelchair systems that we've been talking about, all the things that Barry Dean told us about at the opening session, all those things are environmental factors, but they come under family to remind us that it's the family that has to choose to do these things. It's the family that chooses the priorities in their lives and what they think they can handle. So when we use the HINE and the GMA and we predict what the child GMFCS level is, the research tells us that the families really want to know early that their child has cerebral palsy. They suspect that something is wrong and they want to be validated, but they don't want to be told about limitations. So off the bat, they really don't want to know the GMFCS level. They want to know that there's lots of possibilities. They want to know that, yes, your child might choose to use a power chair in the community. Yes, we might need to use some assistive technology to get your child moving in the home, but they don't want to be told things like your child will never walk. And the truth of it is there are children at GMFCS level 4 that do walk in their own home. They can take independent steps. The sentinel hallmark of someone at GMFCS level 3 is that they are an independent community ambulator with their walker. So if the child can't make that grade, they are then a GMFCS level 4. So again, we have the centiles. We know there's lots of variety within those levels.
Jenny, do you know when those education sessions will be available for families to watch those videos, or where?
My understanding is that Jen Lyman is involved in some of the filming. Some of the filming is happening now. So my guess would be a year to 2 years from now. But CPF is also making some of those videos as well. So they might put theirs out ahead of time. And CPF, Cerebral Palsy Foundation, they have beautiful videos already up on YouTube explaining spasticity, explaining hip health, explaining GMA, explaining HINE. All those things are already up there. My favorite is Natalie Maitreys because she has a son with cerebral palsy. And at the end, she shares about that she suspected he had cerebral palsy and she used the HINE to confirm that. So again, here's some of the ingredients we put under fitness, some of the ingredients we put under friends. and fun. There's our surfing in Costa Rica. And then the most important one, and the one we sort of struggled with the most, was future. So we believe that future includes preventing pain, deformity, contracture, pathological fractures, windswept deformity, all those things are part of the future. And so we have to attend to those as well. We also know that there's other factors that are not included under F words. So we're just going to call them factors, things like dose, what is early, what is on time, and some other environmental factors like attitudes, policies, funding, which we talk a lot about, and more. So if you want to learn more about the F words, you can get everything online free. There is a parental rating scale. So if a parent wants to explore what their GMFCS level might be, they can do that on their own. That's really helpful to have the person do that beforehand. Wendy, I know you have those posters hanging up in your clinic.
We do. It's our education wall. Somebody's asking us to go back a slide to the factors.
Actually, I'm not going to do that because we didn't publish the paper yet. So I don't want to give you everything we're going to say in the paper. Got to wait for the paper. Okay. All right, so let's put this together in a child. This is Lucy. I inherited her from a colleague who retired. She's 2.5 today. And so mostly we've been together on telehealth. We had a small window here in Maryland when COVID looked like it was going away, when Delta was going away, but then we got Omicron, so we're back to being virtual. She had absent fidgety movements. Her GMA motor optimality score was a 5. Her HINE at 9 months was a 17. She has an abnormal MRI. So we know that she has cerebral palsy. We know she's at highest risk of being non-ambulant. And now that she's 2.5, I can tell you she's definitely a GMFCS level 4. So I'm going to plan for that. I'm going to put seating in nice and early. At 3 months, I want a solid back seat that gives her good support, that starts to get her as upright as possible so that by 6 months of age, she's upright, using her vision, playing with toys, using grasp and reach, playing with her sister, feeding herself, and just having a great time. So I know from her HINE score that she's going to end up in the red box. She's not even on the chart yet. She's well below the 30. She's a 17. So again, a very high likelihood of being non-ambulant. So in case you're not a GMFCS level person, just want to remind you that the 5s are the kids that never roll, never commando crawl, never really get head support, head control. So they are in standers. They're using power mobility with supervision. Now that we have smart wheelchairs like Barry Dean is telling us about, we think more and more children are going to have the opportunity to have self-mobility that can be safe. So we are going to have our kids getting more power mobility. The kids at level 4 do learn to roll, do learn to commando crawl. Those are our primary uses of supported stepping devices, power mobility, and they are using standards as well. The kids at level 5 have a 90% chance of having a hip come out of the socket, and the kids at level 4 have a 70% chance of their hips coming out of the socket. So again, we're really looking at some hip health strategies for them. Again, my horrible videos, because it's telehealth, so I'm videotaping my computer, but here we are using a typical high chair to try to get her to feed herself. You can't see it, but she's got some nice pool noodles support at her hips. They're keen on working on sitting. So here the nanny's pulled a basket from the corner that she spotted. And here she is, she's going to put that blanket in the basket and give Lucy some additional trunk support on the right to get her a little straighter. And here she is in her high chair. They've taken a coat hanger and built her a hanging device. They've tried to use lots of orange and yellow because she has visual impairment. And I will say cerebral visual impairment. I will not say cortical vision impairment because I follow the CAN-Child visual impairment scale, and I follow Andreas Guzetta, and the term he uses is cerebral vision impairment because that's where he believes usually the damage or the dysfunction is coming from. Here we've got lots of fun. The nanny has got her hand on her left hip there so she can stand up and play with her baby doll. We go to the playground, we go to the swimming pool, we have plans to go bowling, we have plans to go ice skating as soon as things open here. We are going to get out there and have a good time. In terms of her future, I want to prevent bone mineral density loss. We know that that starts happening already in the NICU, especially for children with low tone. We know from Sean Williams that the muscles start to change at 9 months. You can already see this age of separation or disuse atrophy in the muscle. We lose the satellite or the stem cells in the muscles. So we have to get them weight bearing. We have to get them prolonged stretch, because regular stretching doesn't work. We know that. So when we look at the stander, it's fitness. We have 2 studies that show that standing is exercise for children at GMFCS 4 and 5 at level 4. We know that standing can actually strengthen adults with CP. It grows their muscles. We know that it can maintain bone mineral density if you're going to do it for 90 minutes every day. So we've got some really good information about that. That should be coming out soon. Lenore McLean, Roz Livingstone, and myself, we have a new systematic review on standing specific for the 4s and the 5s, and that should be out later this year. Here we have taken a device and used it in a little bit of a different way. This is a dynamic mobility system. So we've taken off the big wheels. We've added these little cruiser wheels. This is an indoor strategy with direct supervision because it becomes a little tippy, but we're able to get her up to this marvelous toy. Wendy, what's the toy?
They are fidget spinners that have suction cups on the back. Again, Amazon.
Yes, that was my holiday gift from Wendy a few years back. So I tell all my family about these great toys. What you can see is we've got her in here really tightly. You want a really intimate fit. Everything's nice and tight so that every time she moves, the device moves. We've got an article coming out in March in the Journal of, I got to remember what, Journal of Pediatric Physical Medicine, that is talking all about postural management for hip health in children and adults with GMFCS level 4 and 5. I did that with Roz Livingstone. So that's coming out in March if you want to hear more about that. And friends. Friends can be the dog. Friends can be the lady we pass at the shopping mall when we go walking there. They are here. We're using the dynamic mobility system as an affordance for participation and play at her sister. We really like this device because we can get it right up to the table where she can reach things. I think you can tell already that her left side works better than her right side. So we're always trying to put the toys on her right side. That's CIMT and or habit to try to get her to use that right side, but never to frustration. We always make sure that she stays nice and happy. We know from Jan Willem Gorder, from his decision trees for GMFCS, he has these for all the different bandwidths, 0 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, and onward. And we know that when you can start to roll or commando crawl, that's the difference before age 2 of being a GMFCS level 4 versus a 5. So this moment she started doing this sort of pulling on the floor on her belly and being able to roll to get to a toy, that's how we know she was going to be a level 4. She loves to swim. We did a lot of that this summer. Her grandmother and I went to the Y. Of course, I have no idea what happened to all those videos that I took. And then also this is her in her private physical therapy sessions, pushing the pedals on the bike. Haters gonna hate. I know you're gonna hate how she is in this device. Here we are at the shopping mall. This is not my preferred device for her. This is the family's preferred device. It fits easily in the car. They can take it to and from the shopping mall. There's one at childcare, the nanny's house. There's one at home. And I think what I want to take the time is to explain my thinking. I think it was Lisa Kenyon when she showed her beautiful Delphi consensus that you shouldn't rush to fix things if safety is not a concern. So what I had found in other sessions with Lucy is that when I rearranged her, it put her off her game and she would stop stepping. So even though she looks horrible, I'm not going to readjust her. I'm going to let her do her thing and then slowly over time fix it. So here she's slightly better fixed. And I just want to let you know that I am going to try to get her better. But when she's in that prone position, you can see on the right, she just steps better. So I call it funky but functional, but there's a dance between does it look right and can she do it? And over time, I'm going to get her to be more symmetrical and get more upright. But at the beginning, I'm okay if it's funky but functional. I'm okay if it doesn't look good, if she's able to have fun and do what she wants to do. The journey that we are on now is trying to get Lucy power. She tried the Mini Explorer. There was not enough support, and it was very jerky, and she did not like it one bit. So we are trying lots of different things. She's got a Go Baby Go car that she's been enjoying. Unfortunately, the weather here in Maryland has not been cooperative, and then COVID got worse, so we really couldn't go to the shopping mall anymore, but hopefully that's gonna change here soon, and we'll be able to do that. The video on the left is also from Nossa Casa from Brazil. Anything I forgot, Wendy?
Nope, you're good. I think you're doing well.
All right, then the last piece I want to show you is a series of videos that I've been posting on YouTube. A project I'm working on is asking all my families, what do you wish we had done differently when you were in early intervention, especially my 4s and 5s? What could have I done for your journey to be a little bit easier? So this is the Schrader family. I think you know them. Wade Schrader is the head of the CP at AI DuPont in Wilmington, Delaware. He's an orthopedic surgeon. Carol Schrader is a motivational speaker who we've had at ISS in the past. And these are her triplets. And then their younger child as well. Claire, the sister in this picture of the triplets, is one of the authors in our article on early intervention, giving us the lived experience, the sibling. She's also an OT student at Jefferson in Philadelphia. I think she's doing a rotation in Minneapolis right now. And her brother Mason ends up being GMFCS level 2, and Benjamin a level 4, who's now more like a level 5. And we're going to listen to Benjamin tell us what he wished we had done.
Kids like your brother Mason, who desperately wanted to be climbing and walking and running, and he needed more specific gross motor development and work. But you did pretty much know from an early age that you wanted to work more on your verbal skills.
Right.
So, and I think all your therapists did too. When I picked you up, from...
They'd be like, oh no, he talked about a movie and they got completely sidetracked.
Yeah.
Whereas, instead of being that little funny anecdote, I feel like we should have sort of led with that up front.
Yeah.
Not that would, completely negate the stretching and everything else. It would just put it all in a context, in a different context that I think would be helpful.
We have kids.
So my favorite thing about that video is I was really hoping he was going to tell you he wished that we had given him power mobility sooner. But that's the thing when you ask families and people what they want, they don't always give you the answer you wanted. So that's my really good example for you, is that out of everything anyone ever did for him, he wished that they had gotten him to typing and being able to participate in social media sooner. Anything in the chat, Wendy?
People liking the Benjamin's comments about how he wished he'd had some options and we had looked at talking for him if we knew what his GMFCS level was. Something that I can suggest is Cane Child also has the CAPE, the Child's Participation and Enjoyment assessment, that is picture oriented for families and for clients to be able to help identify what they want to participate and enjoy in. It's an assessment we've been using in our clinic with good success with some of our children and families, and help identifying their F words.
What a great idea. Thanks so much. And in that, I just showed you a minute of that video. There's 15 minutes of it on my YouTube channel. So I invite you to go watch the rest of what Benjamin and Carol have to say. And today's a very special day because just this week, Benjamin started his first job. He's going to be a disability advocate in the state of Delaware. So that's really exciting. So to get the best outcomes, we need to use the best fit interventions that match the child's GMFCS level, that match the child's personal goals, that match the family's goals. And then so important to use the right outcome measurement tools. I've worn my earrings today that have rulers on them to remind me always to use good measurement tools. So the jewelry is matching what I'm thinking about. We also want to make sure that we find the kids. We want to use the HINE and the GMA to find these children between 3 and 6 months adjusted age who will have lifelong sensory motor impairments, because we've got to get in there before the motor system is fully developed. As of today, we don't have a single intervention that changes the GMFCS level. And part of the problem with that is we didn't know how to establish what or predict what the GMFCS level was going to be in research to know that we have changed it. But now that we have the HINE and the GMA as an outcome measure, we can predict what your outcome was going to be before we did that intervention. So this is really the window for us to be able to have change. And I invite you to have that change in your area. Learn how to use the HINE and the GMA as screening tools and introduce that to the early intervention people, to the NICU follow-up clinics. Mary Ellen Barkley in New Mexico, they passed a law that everyone has to be trained and use this, that is in NICU follow-up clinics, that's screening for early intervention. Here in Maryland, we did a big training of all the physical therapists to train them as trainers, to train their motor therapists at every site to use the HINE as a screening tool. Wendy, what have you done in West Virginia?
We have had multiple therapists go do GMA training and have put forth an effort to train most of our motor therapists on HINE. Thankfully, when Natalie Maitre was at Nationwide and was offering monthly trainings, West Virginia sent a contingent of motor therapists every month to be trained by her and her team. And we have continued to try to mentor and share the knowledge with our providers.
So I can't emphasize enough how game-changing this is. And again, if you want to keep up in your state or your agency, Australia is moving towards universal screening of newborns. So just like every child gets an MCHAT from their pediatrician to screen for autism at age 2, we want all children being screened for cerebral palsy, not only by their pediatrician, but by all of us that screen babies at early intervention and NICU follow-up clinics, because only 40% of the children with CP came from the NICU. 60% of the children with CP were born full term and healthy. And if you take a picture, that's the YouTube video where Kathy Morgan and Iona Novak will talk to you about their efforts of using universal screening in Australia.
Hey, Jenny, you have a question. What does the HINE score look like for kids with extreme hypotonia less than 6 months?
Oh, that's a lecture we'll give next year. But we are using the HINE. There's a subset on the HINE, a subset of items that are just for hypotonia. So you can tell me, you're getting me all excited now. So we've taken those, and there's a big study we're doing in Valencia, Spain, where all the children are getting the HINE, and we're going to be able to test the validity and the reliability of this new subset of the HINE that will check for hypotonia. So it will find you the kids that are not going to grow out of their hypotonia if you believe in hypotonic cerebral palsy, which is really an American thing. In Europe, you don't have cerebral palsy if you only have hypotonia without ataxia. But again, I'll meet you at the bar next year and we can talk about that more. Or email me or PM me and we can Zoom together. If you want to look at those tools, I can show you what we've got and we can discuss it further. Any other questions?
All that's in the chat as of right now.
All right, well, we'll open up in a minute. We'll open up everybody up so that they can talk and we can have a nice conversation because we've got lots of time. So here's my summary. If you're seeing babies that are under age 2, please learn the HINE. Please learn to screen. My friends that are in other countries that don't have time, the HINE takes about 15 minutes. They're using the 3 sentinel items to know who they should do the whole HINE on. If you're seeing the younger babies, if you're in a NICU follow-up clinic, please learn the GMA. Learn it as screening tools. If you can't get to a formal training, there's a lot of information on the web. I can help you access the HINE trainings and what we've got, again, especially to learn it as a screening tool. Spread it around your territory, train everybody, find the kids that are at risk for GMFCS 4 and 5, because they need very different ingredients, very different interventions from our 1s and 2s and 3s, and get them what they need to have functioning. Remember, we're changing it from function to functioning, fun, friends, family, fitness, and a really good future. So in terms of motor and in terms of the ingredients that we're recommending at this point, these are mostly from the game intervention. We want to start between 3 and 6. We want to start at 3 months with supported seating. I've been using the special tomato, but you can use typical baby equipment. I like the Space Saver high chair. I can adapt that really easily. We want a tray. We want to start with some recline and maybe add a little bit of abduction for hip health, but just a little bit. In Sweden, on average, the kids are only standing in 10 to 15 degrees abduction total. So we probably don't need that 60 degrees. We can probably do much less and still have an effect. At 9 months, another spelling error. Sorry, my fault, Wendy. Standing at 9 months, it's okay to start with typical baby equipment. And maybe, as Wendy says, it's overwhelming to get all those things at one time. So maybe it's less overwhelming if you're using typical baby equipment. Stepping devices, we like to try to put in around the same time, and power mobility as well. I'm sorry, this is full of spelling errors. I blame COVID. Use the evidence in your LMN, apply it to that particular child, and especially emphasize what will happen if that child doesn't get that device. We have a huge problem here, as we've heard in other sessions, of Maryland Medicaid taking 6 to 12 months to get a device. By the time I get the device, my window of opportunity to change the neurology, the neurological function, the anatomy of that child is gone. So I have a foundation here, not myself, I volunteer there, Lollipop Foundation. I get the loaner in right away. I don't wait. I can't not get you standing and stepping before 12 months, and then your intraspinal neurons are done being baked. I can't make enough of a difference if I don't get it on time. And on time is really, really young. On time is really, really, really early, often before parents have really had a chance to process this all. So that's, again, why we like this idea of training parents, educating parents, telling them about the Can Child website, getting them to listen to some of these videos and understand that I can't wait until you're ready. Your child will not slow down in their windows of opportunity shutting down until you're ready. We've got to get in and do these things. So thank you so much for hanging in with all these crazy technological glitches and hanging in there with us. So I hope now that we can allow everybody to unmute, to share their screen, so we can see all your bright, shiny faces, and let us know how you're feeling about all this information, or just sharing about some of the things you've been able to pick up over the course of this conference. And Heather, if I can pick on you to sort of help us put it all together, that would be lovely. Wendy, do you have anything you want to say before we do that?
No, give Heather a chance.
Heather, what do you think?
Oh my gosh, I love it. Can you all hear me?
We can.
I love it. I love, you know, in looking, I think that graph that you showed that will, I think, be in your paper is especially relevant in terms of when to think about introducing all of these different modes, because they're all so important and critical. And I think one of the things that we've struggled with is kind of how to have that conversation with families, right? Because a lot of times families aren't ready. And a lot of times other clinicians that you run into aren't thinking that this way, right? And so I would love to chat about that more, and thinking about, you know, the way that you approach it, right? Because we do, you know, as Lisa was talking about, you do have to kind of be gentle and kind of unlock that motivation, but you also, you can't wait. You can't wait. And so I love how you phrase that. And so, you know, for us, it has been a little bit of, you know, all mobility in all forms, all positioning. It's all going to help. It's all going to be beneficial. And this, you know, I've kind of said, I don't personally take a wait and see approach. That's not how I function in the work that I do. And so would just love to hear how you all have continued to approach that with families or clinicians who don't necessarily see that urgency piece and that multimodal piece that you did a fantastic job describing here.
Barry, can I pick on you? Can you show us your video and open your audio and tell us how it would have been helpful for you? at the beginning to have all those things happen? And then Patricia Toole, if I can pick on you next. Did Barry come on? Patricia, or is it Jen? Who's using Barry's?
I'm here.
Jen's going to tell us. So Jen, how should have we handled all that? How should have we told you all the different things? You're still on mute. All the things we could have helped you with Catherine and accepting everything we were trying to give you. I love Jen's face. She's doing that. Where's the mute button face? At any moment, she'll call her 1-year-old over and he'll show her where the mute button is.
There it is. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So this is something you and I have talked about quite a bit. I think with Catherine, I just felt so overwhelmed when she was little and in the Birth to 3 program. And, you know, all the different therapists had so many lists of things for me to do that it was like, I just can't. I just can't do all these things. And even if I could, she won't do them for me like she does for you. But I think when the list of things became more practical and you could see the bigger picture of why are we doing this? What's the long-term goal here? I think that was really helpful. But I think the other thing too that we didn't have is this early idea of what the future looked like. So, you know, you spend so much time focused on trying to walk and then realizing, wait, I don't think this is real. Like, I don't think this is actually what her life looks like. And that's okay. But wait a minute, why are we celebrating our 1,000 steps at therapy when maybe we should be learning how to drive our chair better or that kind of thing? So I think figuring out that sort of honest discussion of, you know, here's the reality of the situation, would have really helped me. And you know, this is a side note, but even when she was first born and we knew that she would have disabilities, but we didn't know what that would look like. Barry's cousin actually was the first person who came to me and said, it's going to be okay. It's not going to be all better, but it's going to be okay. You'll get through this. And it was the most relieving statement to go, oh, yeah, it just looks different. We can figure this out. So thank you for all you're doing.
That's really powerful, Jen. Thank you so much for sharing. Can you video record that so I can put it on the YouTube channel with the rest of the stories, please?
You guys will have to figure that out.
Ginny, I'm going to
Patricia?
jump in real quick. We have 5 minutes.
Great. Patricia, is there anything you want to share as being sort of on both sides of this?
Yeah, I am kind of on both sides of this, and forgive me for not going live because it is pretty early in Seattle and I'm not ready for a camera. So I'm an occupational therapist and also parent of a child with spastic quadriplegia who is now 24. And I think what would have really helped me at the beginning was if the equipment had looked child friendly. Our first wheelchair was a kid cart given to us by our developmental pediatrician at the Army Medical Center. It was just given to us with no directions and no adjustment and no knowledge that you could actually get something that fit. It was just given to us, and I thought it was really ugly. I thought it looked like an electric chair. And I didn't get rid of it because it had been given to us, but I did put it in the closet in the spare room. So I'm seeing this lovely, cute equipment that we have now. And I think that would have really helped to have stuff that looks like something that a kid would use. And I would have been much more willing to use things like that when he was little than this thing that really was pretty scary looking to me as a as a first time parent, he was my first kid, and I wasn't a therapist yet. I had never met anybody with a disability. When I went to school, the kids with disabilities were like in the portable in the back. So I had literally not ever known anyone with a disability before my son. And he was born in 1998. So that's probably changing now. I hope that that's changing now. But having support equipment that looks cute and is accessible to our kids, I think that makes a difference. It helps us know as parents that our therapists recognize that our kid is a kid first and not like
Thank you
some
so much.
diagnosis.
I'm sorry, we're out of time, but really thank you so much for sharing. And if you guys want to know more about the HINE or the GMA, please reach out. And again, I thank you so much for joining us today. And what a great conference, and hope to see you all in person in Pittsburgh next year.
Great. Thanks, guys. We
everyone.
appreciate it. And I will, there was a code issue, but the code that I posted in the chat should be working now, as long as you refresh the survey. SRPHEUW, or HEU, yes, sorry. SRPHEU. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.